Hello ladies and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video we have the good, the bad, and the ugly on the NB Miata, the Mazda Miata NB. I think I've already done one on the NA. If not, I'll probably do one in a couple weeks here or something, but I'm pretty sure I already have. So we're going to do the NB today. I personally love the NB, and spoiler alert, I love the NB more than I love the NA. Oh, what? How dare he? No, I mean it. These cars are really cool to me. I like them a lot, and for their price, why buy an NA? They're pretty much the same price now, and these cars are just better in every way. Why buy an NA? Makes no sense to me. Either way, without further ado, let's go right into it. I'll explain how the good, bad, and ugly works as we go along. So first thing that we got to talk about before we get into the actual good, bad, and ugly is everything about the car. Just the info that you kind of need to know. Just the basic info about it. First up is the years made and the generation of it. It was made from 1998 to 2005, and obviously it's the second generation of the Mazda Miata or Mazda MX-5, depending on where you live. Next is the trim levels. These are actually pretty easy. There's not really that big of a difference. You got the base, the LE, and the SE. They all come with a 1.8 liter inline 4 that makes 142 horsepower. And then yes, there is something called the Mazda Speed variant, which is very rare, and most likely you are not going to actually buy one of these cars. But either way, it does come with the same 1.8 liter inline 4, but now it has a turbocharger on it, and it makes 178 horsepower. That's pretty cool. Obviously, Mazda Speed, a thing of the past, sadly, and I really wish they would come back and start making, like, imagine a Mazda Speed ND Miata. Hello, imagine a new Mazda Speed 3, because I like the new Mazda 3s. I think they look really good, but imagine this Mazda Speed 3 variant of it. Like, come on, bring it back, Mazda. Anyway, the body styles. There's convertible only, obviously. You can buy a hardtop for these cars, and I think some options did come with a hardtop, but chances are you're going to buy a convertible, okay? And if it does have a hardtop on there, chances are that's a modification. It wasn't factory like that. Next up is the drivetrains. It's rear-wheel drive only. I mean, obviously, did you think there was an all-wheel drive Miata out there? You're silly. Next is the transmissions. It's automatic and manual. Do not buy the automatic, buy the manual. Not just because it's more fun, because the auto actually has some issues. Next is the price. Goes anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000. It obviously heavily depends on who you're buying this car from. If you're buying this car from Johnny the Drifter Boy down the street, and that's also sells a little bit of on the side, then he might sell it to you for $3K, because he probably beat the thing up and it's probably absolutely destroyed. But if you're buying it from old man Smitty Werben Jaegerman Jensen, then yeah, it's probably going to be like $10K, because it's probably been garage kept its whole life and it's a beauty. So it really just depends on what you're looking for with the Miata. Next is the reliability and the gas mileage. The car is obviously very, very reliable. Everybody kind of knows that. For a sports car, a Miata is one of the better options. These things have always just been, at least in terms of their reliability, they've always been insanely reliable. They're like one of the most reliable cars out there, and they're a sports car, which is really, really cool, obviously. The gas mileage is also incredible. It gets a 28 miles per gallon combined, which is insane. Like, I've done a lot of these good, bad, and uglies, and so far, this is, I believe, the highest gas mileage of any of the cars I've done. Which makes sense. I mean, it has a small little inline 4, and it's pushing a very, very small car around, so obviously the gas mileage is going to be good. Alright, but now we're going to quickly go over what the car community does with these things when they modify them. This is just a basic, like, a general statement, okay? So if I say that this car isn't seen doing something that you built your car for, don't come at me saying that like I'm trying to tell you how you should build it. I'm just saying how other people build the car, okay? First up is drifting. It's actually not as popular as you would think. Drifters don't really like short wheelbases and 50-50 weight distribution as much as you would think, I feel like. Like, it's kind of surprising what drifters are looking for, but they like things that like Toyota JZX cars or Toyota or S13s. They like Mustangs because they have long wheelbases. Like, they like things like that, and you surprisingly don't see as many Miatas as you would expect at a drift event. For rally / off-road racing, however, it's also not seen very often, but this is kind of obvious why. They're one of the smallest sports cars out there, and taking it off-road is kind of crazy. However, there are people that do that just because they want to be different and they want to be crazy, and so yes, you can see off-road Miata builds if you want, and it's pretty insane. Next is for street racing. I mean, sometimes it's seen, but not really that often. It's not really a street racing kind of car, okay? Like, if you're gonna go drag racing at 0 to 60 times, that's not really for you in a Miata. Again, sometimes people do some insane things like LS swap them and then they take them out on the streets, but for the most part, I would say they don't really do this. Next is track racing. This is obviously its most popular application by far. These things are little go-karts. Every time you go to any sort of autocross event, any track day, you're gonna see Miatas, and especially NBs right now because they're just that cheap. They're insanely good at this. If you want a track car, definitely think of a Miata. And finally, the stance and show car kids, whatever you're going for, they're just making it look pretty. It's kind of seen, but definitely not as much as the NA. The NA kind of holds that spot right now for Miatas. The ND has probably the second place, and then NB I would say is third. But it's not seen that often. But that doesn't mean it doesn't look good. I just feel like people haven't caught on to it yet. Alright, now we are into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way this works, in case you're new here, and oh my god, you guys should see the comments I get on my good, bad, and uglies of actual idiots who do not have ears that get so mad at me when I mention, like, just common problems with the car. I have never owned a NB Miata, so I only go off of internet forums and things like that, like videos of people that own the cars and saying what they like or what they dislike about it, okay? That's it. At the same time, when I say good, those are things that are just good about the car. Nobody ever has a problem with that because obviously the owners aren't going to get mad at me if I say that their car is good. The bad are not actually bad things. It's just a fun play on words because of the good, the bad, and ugly movie. The bad is just the middle ground things that don't actually really affect you that much, but if they do affect you, then it's something to think about. And then the ugly are the only things that actually matter and I would look into. Without further ado, let's go right into the good. First up is the price. These cars are cheap. I mean, they just genuinely are. It depends on what you're looking for, obviously, but for the most part, they're really cheap. Next up for the good is the community. I don't think anybody's going to sit there and be like, oh my god, Miata owners suck. They're so stupid. They're so dumb. I hate the Miata owners. They're so mean. No, they're just sweethearts. They just like having their little go-karts. Next is the clout you're going to get with it. I mean, if this matters to you, then here you go. You're going to get some clout just because you have a Miata. Everybody on TikTok wants one nowadays. Next is they're going to rise in value. This is obvious. If you don't think that Miatas are going to continue to rise in value, you are a moron. The NB is, if anything, going to rise higher than the NA pretty soon here because it still hasn't really gotten its footing yet. And once it does, it'll start flying up, I believe. Next is aftermarket support. These cars have tons of aftermarket support. They pretty much share the same motor as the NA Miata, so anything that fits on that car also fits on this. And on top of that, they don't even need that because they also get their own aftermarket support. That's pretty good. Next up is the handling. They obviously handle incredibly well. You know that. I don't have to elaborate on that. Next is the reliability and the gas mileage. We just went over this, but yes, they're incredibly reliable, incredibly good on gas. Next is, in my opinion, they are just better than the NA Miata, and they're somehow cheaper. That is just a good combination to me. A car that's better than its older brother, but cheaper than its older brother is really good. So gotta love it. Next is they are easy to work on. Holy moly. My friend Zach had an NA, and I know again that this is an NB, and so they're technically different somehow, but they're really not, and he had to change the transmission out. He just carried it out from under the car. It was no big deal. The motor, oh, you might think, okay, well, it's still pretty heavy. It is still pretty heavy, don't get me wrong, but it's, oh my god, doing a motor swap on a Miata takes like 2 minutes. These cars are so freaking easy to work on. They're such a good like starter point for somebody. And finally, for the good is the price of the parts are also incredibly low. It's just going to be cheap as hell to replace it. All right, but now you're into the bad, and again, you mean people. I'm not saying that these parts of the car actually suck. I'm just saying there are things that you might want to take into consideration. Might. If it doesn't affect you, then don't. It doesn't matter. But these are just things I read from the internets. All right, next, first up for the bad is the sound. I put this here on every one of the good, bad, and uglies because it's totally 100% up to you. So here's a sound clip of the car. Next is the size. Ooh, these are small cars, and that might scare you if you're like somebody that's a new driver, because if you get into an accident, yes, there's a chance that you will be decapitated. These things are incredibly small, okay? They just are. It's also harder for people to see you because of how small they are. So there's something to keep in mind. Next is the space for the interior and the trunk. The trunk space and the interior space is definitely bigger than you would think. Like, I want to make that very clear. Getting one of these things as a 6 foot tall guy, I was surprised. But at the same time, it's still very small. It's still a small car. Okay, so you got to keep that in consideration if you are going to be carrying a lot of people around, or if you got, if you're going to buy wheels for this car, you're going to probably have to get a second car just to carry the wheels down to wherever they're going to get mounted and balanced. Next is they are rear-wheel drive only. Obviously, that could be a problem if you live in a snowy area, or if you're just afraid of driving rear-wheel drive cars, which if you are, by the way, just do it. It's so much fun. Next is there's no more pop-up headlights. That's what, before I said that they're better than the NA and somehow cheaper, this is the only part that they're not better than them on. They don't have pop-up headlights, which makes me sad. Next is the cup holders just don't exist. There is no cup holders in this car. It's really not the best daily driver. So there is like modifications. You can get like fake cup holders on the sides, and they work well apparently, but still kind of sucks. Next is they're slow. I mean, it's not that surprising. 140 horsepower is not fast. It depends on what you're looking for. Obviously, if you're looking for like just autocross car, then these are probably one of the fastest cars you can get. But if you're looking for fast cars in the general sense of fast in like a straight line, obviously this is not the best choice for you. Next is the convertible top leaks, and it's very, very expensive to replace. So not like super expensive, but when the car itself costs $3,000 and then the top costs $2,000, that's pretty expensive. Okay, so it just sucks to have to replace something like that. Obviously, most people go with the hard top anyways, but either way, it does suck to keep that in mind. Next is they have rubber brake lines, which are most likely going to need to be replaced as well. They're old cars, and rubber just does not stand the test of time very well, so get ready for that. Next is the people selling these cars are sketchy. There are a lot of cars that I put this into bad for, because a lot of the cars that we look at as younger car enthusiasts that just want cheap, easy to get into cars are typically owned by the people that you kind of don't want to do business with, and so trying to buy them can always just be a little bit sketchy. Just be careful. That's all. I just wanted to put that out there. Just make sure you double check everything if the owner looks sketchy. Don't feel like you're discriminating or something like that. Oh, I'm judging a book by its cover. Who cares? Judge that book by its cover. If he looks like a sketch ball, then he's probably a sketch ball, okay? And finally, for the bad is the looks. Some people don't like them. I do. I think they look really good, okay? They're incredible. But now we are into the ugly. These are just problems with the car. You're probably going to have to deal with them, okay? But there's really only two things that I can muster up, and the first one is the automatic transmission is very poor. Just get a manual. Super simple. There's tons of manuals out there. It shouldn't be hard for you to find a manual over an automatic. So yeah, just get the manual. There's really no point in buying the auto. It's not reliable. It's not fast. It's not fun. There's nothing about the auto that's better than the manual. So just get the manual. And finally, for the ugly is the car rusts very fast. I know it's something that you can just look at when going to buy the car, but some people won't look and will get more excited to just get in the car because they just have a money burning their hole in the pocket, and they'll just go right past the rust and not care about it. And rust is car cancer. So here it is. It's definitely an ugly point. Apparently these cars rust quite fast. Just keep that in mind. But the fact that just rust and an automatic transmission is the only thing that's in the ugly for this car is a very good sign. They're very good cars. All right, final thoughts though. Do I think you should buy it depending on the current situation that you're in? Well, let's go over that real quick. If you are looking for just a daily driver, just a genuine daily driver, and you're not a car guy at all, you couldn't care less if it's cool or if it's fun or if it's fast, you just need a daily. No. This is an awful choice for you. They're way too small for just about anybody out there that's looking for just a daily driver. There's no point in you buying a Miata as a daily if you don't want the Miata. If you just care about having a daily driver, get a Camry, get a Civic. It's obvious. For a car guy daily driver, though, this is obviously a little bit different than just a regular daily driver. Car guys, yes, they want a daily that's reliable and gets some places on time and is comfortable, blah, blah, blah. But they obviously want it to be a little bit fun. I still think this is a bad idea for you then. How are you going to fit your wheels and your tires in a Miata? How are you going to fit your tools in a Miata? How are you going to have a ton of fun in the Miata when it's wintertime and your top won't go up? It's just not the best choice for you as a car guy to buy as a daily driver. Buy something like a Acura TL. Buy something like a Jeep Cherokee, you know, something that's still fun but reliable and has a ton of space. Is nice to drive. Next is the Sunday Cruiser boys. Surprisingly, they are seen, especially since the value is going to go up. Like, people do park these in the garage and hold on to them and only drive them on Sundays. But in my opinion, there's no real point doing that considering they are so cheap right now. It kind of depends on the one that you buy. Like, obviously, if you buy one with like 10,000 miles and it's perfect condition, garage kept its whole life, then yeah, it makes sense to keep it a Sunday Cruiser. But if you're just buying like a 100,000 mile one, and you buy it for like $5,000 or something like that, no, I would just have fun with the car, man. You're not going to lose value driving it whenever you want to drive it because it's already at an interesting point. Finally, for the race car and project car people that are trying to buy a strictly race car, strictly project car, this is easily the best option for you. The possibilities are absolutely endless. These things are so much fun no matter how you build them. You can build them insanely. You can obviously put an LS in them and become like this insane famous YouTuber that does all the craziest things in the world, or you can just have fun with a naturally aspirated inline 4 and just turn it into a little autocross monster and not really be that fast in a straight line. You could do whatever you want with NB Miatas and they're going to take it very well, and that's incredible. So, and they do it all incredibly cheap. They do it all incredibly reliably. They do it all with a good gas mileage. It's the possibilities are endless. This is an incredible choice if you're looking for something like a project car. But ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other car you want to see a good, bad, and ugly on. I get a lot of recommendations, so chances are if you do leave a comment down below, I won't actually be doing it, but I still do go off the comments. So, you know, if you want to see a car, you gotta leave the comments. But then at the same time, unfortunately, I can't promise anything because I get a lot of comments on cars that people want me to do. So that's just the unfortunate truth, I guess. Want to know an interesting fact? I didn't see it personally, my brother did. A blimp flew over our house. And you want to know something? That may not sound that interesting to you, like, oh, okay, a blimp, where does he live? Where does he live? Like, why does that matter? Well, because first of all, I live in the middle of nowhere, pretty much, okay? Like, I live in a very small town in Connecticut. There's nothing around here. And on top of that, apparently, there's only 25 blimps in the world left. 25! And we saw one fly over our house. That's like seeing a Koenigsegg Regera, but even more rare. I think there's more Koenigsegg Regeras out there than blimps. How crazy is that? Blimps. You would think, like, they're probably very common, you know? You probably see blimps all over the place. No, apparently not. There's 25 of them. I never knew that. It's crazy. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something about the blimps. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.